Y'all get ready?
Yes, you get ready.
If you want the latest news in the streets, join us and tune in for the tea. Breaking news with integrity. So tell your friends and your family. It's the Lovelyti TV show, bringing you good tea and good vibes. It's the Lovelyti TV show. Be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Hey tea sippers, I hope you guys are doing good. So we got to talk about all of the drama that is going on with Tyra Banks and her new Netflix special called Reality Check, okay? So as you guys know, we talked about the preview a few weeks ago. Told you I wanted to watch the documentary because I was a huge fan of America's Next Top Model. When it first came out, I was there from season 1. I kind of checked out around season 11. It just became too much after a while. But this documentary showed a lot. One of the things that bothered me to start with was the fact that this was a show that lasted 20 years and 24 seasons. And for them to give us just 3 episodes, bitch, really? Objection. Tiger King got more episodes than that, and we didn't know who the fuck a Tiger King was, okay? We didn't know who the hell Joe Exotic was. And we got 7 episodes of Tiger King. So why a show and a woman that we've been invested in since our teenage lives, okay? I had pictures of Tyra Banks on my wall as a teenager. Why would you give us 3 episodes, ma'am? Why would you not give us more episodes? This was a 20+ year series, and we got 3 episodes. Whose bright idea was that? I assume Tyra Banks, okay? To me, it didn't really come off like a documentary. It came off like PR repair for Tyra Banks. My thing is this, what they should have done is they should have dedicated 1 full episode to each situation, right? So maybe the first episode should have solely been dedicated to Tyra Banks, Ken Mock, the production, the behind the scenes. Then the second episode should have been fully dedicated to the models, okay? I hated how they kept going in between Tyra, Ken Mock, the judges, the models. They should have had the episodes be dedicated specifically to those topics. And then the third episode could have been, dedicated solely to the judges and what they went through. I just didn't like how they had everything kind of intertwined and mixed in because it didn't make it flow well. It didn't make it flow well, and let's keep it real. The production and Tyra Banks and the judges were living a totally different reality than the contestants. Their realities were 2 totally different things, and every time the girls had something to say, any type of complaint, it felt like it was being minimized by everybody else. And another thing that bothered me, hold up. Objection, what the fuck was Tyra Banks wearing? Why was she dressed in a damn coat the whole time? Ma'am, stay a while. Where you about to go? Ain't this your docuseries? Why did she look like she was ready to leave at any moment? Like she didn't get comfortable. She wasn't really made up. Hair looked kind of crazy. I wasn't feeling the hair. But I'm just like, she just looked like I'm just, I'm ready to just get this done and over with so that I can go back to eat my hot ass ice cream in Australia. It's like, ma'am, we're all here because of you. Why do you look like you're ready to leave while we're sitting here getting comfortable in our damn robes and nightgowns and everything else? What's up with that, Miss Banks? So let's talk about the first thing that kind of bothered me as a black woman, especially a dark-skinned black woman, was Ebony and the treatment of Ebony. I remember seeing Ebony for the first time on television, and her look was very striking. You had this beautiful chocolate woman with these high cheekbones. She had a personality. She had a low, haircut. And when they got ready to do her makeover, I remember a lot of us were like, I wonder what they're going to do to Ebony. Because, everybody was excited for the makeover and everything else. And the way they disrespected her in that chair, the way those white women sat around her and touched her hair like it had lice, or I don't know what to do. We could just cut it. Or maybe we can put her name in her head. I remember watching that when I was younger and I'm feeling away. Like, damn, they're just disrespecting her. Like, you could just tell she was feeling so uncomfortable, but she was trying hard to keep the peace.
When I went on that show, I knew people would be against anything that I represent, being a black woman that's gay or whatever it is. But I did think that I would be protected. I thought the first episode was fabulous. I was so excited to be a role model. And then when I saw the makeovers,
Ebony, this little piece of hair right here, that extra little thing, gone.
That's when I felt the full disappointment of the way I was represented. I'm sitting there and I have 3 of the top stylists over my head, laughing my hair texture. It was really just frustrating. The people did not have the correct clippers. Everybody basically sat, they didn't know what to do.
3 leave a little tough.
Oh, how can they go wrong with a Caesar?
Should we write her name?
Yeah.
Did y'all hear that? She said, should we write her name? That was so disrespectful. And even the way that they came in at Ebony, the one bitch had her arms crossed. Like she just didn't want to be bothered at all. She didn't know why she was there. You could tell they did not want to do anything properly towards Ebony's hair.
Thinking this was a test. That at any moment, Mr. J would say, Ebony, you're fabulous, or Ebony, you handled this well. They ended up giving me 3 bald spots. Yeah, very disappointing. And it's very upsetting to an African-American woman to go into a salon and the person to do her hair incorrectly. It is very inappropriate.
Tyra would not have this. She's too big for this. Girl, what I do all the time. Girl, that's
As I'm trying to figure out how can I fix my hair, Tyra calls me at the end of the day. And this was like the first time we really even had a conversation because she barely spoke to me on the show. So I'm thinking that my sister is going to understand. I thought she was going to say, girl, don't worry, I'll go to Harlem. And she says, the judges have been talking to me and they've been saying that you have been showing up ashy every day. And I'm blown away. She didn't say, oh, you're dealing with a little acne, or, you know what, Ebony, your skin looks a little irritated. I didn't understand why they chose those specific words. When I went on that show, I knew people would be against anything that I represent, being a black woman that's gay or whatever it is. But I did think that I would be protected. I thought the first...
So the fact that Tyra would call her in to let her know that she's ashy, it was very degrading. I felt like Ebony was used as, the sacrificial lamb, just to say we have a black girl, a unique, you know what I'm saying? They were never going to pick Ebony. They just had her there just to say they had a dark-skinned black woman on set. After that, Ebony talks about how she would, put a bunch of, shea butter and oil on her. And then, of course, the other roommates would complain because when she would go to touch the doorknobs, they're greasy from all the oil because now Ebony's trying to oil her skin up constantly. And I'll never forget when Tyra Banks told her, it's not because you're dark skinned, it's that your skin is too thick. And I remember being young, not understanding that. Like, what do you mean her skin is too thick? Like, that is weird. Your skin should be smooth like butter. That's how black women's skins are. And as somebody who's never dealt with acne, rarely ever had pimples, and I have pretty smooth skin, I still didn't understand what the fuck she was talking about. I'm like, okay, my skin is pretty smooth, but how is Ebony's skin thick? I didn't see a bunch of acne on Ebony's skin. I didn't see a bunch of pimples. I didn't know what Tyra was talking about at all as a young person. But as I've gotten older, I understand that comes from racism. Because a lot of times, especially as dark-skinned women and dark-skinned people actually, we're told that our skin is thicker. We can handle pain better. We don't feel pain like other people because we have thicker skin. And that is not true. As a dark-skinned woman, let me tell you, that is not true. We feel pain just like anybody else. So for Tyra to say that about her skin, it never sat well with me. But you don't have the words when you're young. You don't even know how to take it in. But now watching this with a set of adult eyes, that was very racist and that was very lowbrow and that was wrong. And she was treated wrong. It was a lot of colorism on that set. So while we're talking about black girls, let me go ahead and segue into this next person. I tried to take her for Tyra before because I thought maybe the internet was giving her a bad shake. And the fact that, she's a black woman on a show and they're demonizing her, but there were all types of crazy things that went on back then. But watching this documentary really, made me look at Tyra in a different light because it brought back a lot of memories that I had kind of stored away. You know what I mean? It unlocked a lot of stuff for me over the past 20 years. And she did act funny towards a lot of the black contestants. She did talk down to a lot of the black women. She didn't treat them with a level of kindness and a level of, support like she did a lot of the white model contestants, okay? Let's talk about Danielle. As most of you guys know, out of all the girls that ever applied on Top Model, Danielle was my favorite model, winner or not. I loved Danielle. And I like Nena as well. They were both on the same season. And I was torn because Nena's Nigerian, but I also like Danielle. But once Nena, got the boot, Team Danielle all day. One thing I really liked about Danielle was her body. I saw my body in Danielle because Danielle, even though she's slim, she had a chest on her. And a lot of times, when people are slim or skinny, they tend to be flat chested. So I really looked up to Danielle because we had a very similar body frame. You know what I mean? Danielle had some boobies on her and she was tall and thin. I'm like, okay, good. Somebody who has a similar, who has a similar frame to me, because that would be my issues when I would go on go-sees and modeling calls and stuff like that in Minneapolis. It's like, okay, yeah, you're a small down here, but then your top is like a large. And so that would cause conflict a lot of times, especially if it's like swimwear. They don't want to mix up sizes. If you're a small or medium bottom, they want you to be the same on top. And for me, I might be a small bottom, but then I would need like a medium or a large top. So, and it was just hard, you know what I mean? So to see Danielle not necessarily have like that stick skinny shape. I think the young folks call it slim thick. I don't know. But back then it was just like, okay, skinny girl with some boobs and they're real, So I really liked Danielle and her personality, but most of all her gap. I really loved her gap. You guys know in our culture, gaps are a big deal. We love them, okay? I don't get props for my straight teeth, but my little sister has a gap. She's always gotten props for her gap, okay? Because they're a big deal in our culture. So to see this brown-skinned girl with this amazing body, this gap, I loved her country accent. I loved her personality. And I felt watching throughout that season that Tyra tried to break her. The way she just kept clowning her gap. You're not going to be marketable if you got a gap like this and you got to get rid of that accent. Who's going to sit there and take you serious if you can't say either the cut a girl? Like, she was always making fun of Danielle, and Danielle just kind of wrote with the punches, okay? The closing of the gap of Danielle's teeth, I didn't like it. I didn't agree with it. There was nothing wrong with that. And there was a white woman named Laura Stone. She was a huge model. And I remember around that time, she was making a lot of headway because she had this extremely large gap and she was beautiful. Guess around what time this was? This was also around the same time that Danielle was on America's Next Top Model. Laura Stone's popularity was around 2006 to 2008. Let me show you. So this was Laura Stone right here. And as you guys see, it says she's been active in the industry since 1999. Her career accelerated significantly from 2006 onward. She became a top model around 2006, 2008, named Model of the Year in 2010. Okay, she used to work with Elite Model Agency. What's her on Vogue? You can see her gap here. I mean, this girl was everywhere around that time. Okay? Everywhere. This was a real famous picture of her. So somebody who's a fan of the modeling world, who kept up with models back then, I did not understand the problem with Danielle's teeth. When you had this, uber famous white girl who's on all the magazines, everybody's talking about, how beautiful her gap is, and she's making a way for women with gap teeth. And then there's a lot of black women who had gap teeth, and they're looking at Danielle as a role model, and you decide as a black woman to close her gap. And you can tell it still affects Danielle to this day. Another thing that really broke my heart is the fact that Danielle got played. Because I remember after she won, I'm like, okay, we're waiting to hear about her ripping the runways in Paris and Milan and, all this stuff. And, we'd see her like a BET award or, something, like in the urban space. But you didn't see her on runways. You didn't see her on fashion magazines. And it's like, well, where the hell is Danielle? Because she was one of my favorites. I remember looking her up years ago, like, where is Danielle now? And it's like she wasn't really doing anything. And then she talked about how she went to the model house and was left there for months. And then she found out the real reason why she was never sent on any go-sees.
Shows. What I was told was that no one wanted to book me for their shows because I was viewed as like this reality star, and designers didn't want me walking in their show to take attention, if you will, off of their collection and onto myself. And so I knew very early on that, top model has a stigma. I've already lived 20 years in the real modeling industry and got my ass handed to me. So I was never able to rise to the level that I could have or should have. What angers me the most is the conversation that Tyra had with me years later. She told me that, she said, I knew that there were certain doors that you couldn't even get into because you did top model. And I did nothing about it. I always rode the fence with you.
That's why I don't like Tyra. Right there. She killed them girls' dreams knowing nobody would.
I say respectfully, Tyra, you have no fucking idea how painful it has been for me. You have no fucking idea.
So you heard some of what Danielle had to say. And the thing that was really sad is that Danielle, she was in a model house with another model named Chanel Iman. And Chanel was going on all types of go-sees. But if you know anything about Chanel Iman, she is Black and Korean. Beautiful girl, you know what I'm saying, has done her thing with Victoria's Secrets and the runway and everything else. I feel like the industry was very intimidated by Danielle. Because one, Danielle was stunning. And she was very likable. People liked her, both Black and white. Remember, her best friend in the house was Joni. People really liked Danielle. Very personable, big energy. She tried her hardest. She was from this itty-bitty town in Arkansas. Because my thing is, I get designers maybe feeling away like, oh, I don't want her taking attention from my clothes. But it's very funny that the white models who won, okay, how about the plus-size model Whitney? She was plus size, and they still managed to get her into good positions. And, they didn't have a plus size division when she first got out, but she was eventually walking and getting all types of work. So how come they weren't afraid about Whitney or any of the other prior models, taking from their shine? But it's very interesting that it was Danielle that they were worried about. But it just shows you the racism in the modeling industry. And before you guys say, well, what about, Eva the Diva? She made it. She really blew up. Let me keep it real with y'all. One of the reasons why Eva made it, and Eva's a beautiful woman. Y'all know I've been around Eva. But Eva, hell, me and Eva are about the same damn height. I'll see if I can find a picture of me and Eva because we hung out Juneteenth in Atlanta. She invited me to her home. Sweet girl. But Eva is not as tall as a Danielle. So when you're not 5'11", almost 6 foot, you're a bit more marketable. And on top of that, Eva had those particular features. She had the green eyes, the beautiful peanut butter skin. She looked like a young Tyra Banks. And so for her, it was easier for her to seg into acting because most men who are in acting, if you guys do not know, they're not that tall. The average guy in acting, they're between the heights of 5'8", at the most maybe 5'10". They're not that tall. Most men end up getting into acting because they were too small to play sports. On average, not everybody, but on average. Because think about it, if a guy is, 6'5", they're not going to put him in acting. They're going to make you go dribble a ball, go play football, things like that. So a lot of short kings are in the acting space. And because Eva wasn't super, super tall, she could kind of segue into print ads, acting, things like that. But when you're a tall female, they're not going to really cast tall women in major acting roles because a lot of the guys are shorter. They don't want a girl who's almost 6 foot towering over the lead male actor. So that's why Eva was able to get, certain things that a Danielle couldn't, because Eva wasn't extraordinarily tall. She was one of the shortest models they had casted. So that kind of helped her. It, won her look, her features, but her height also helped her out where she could kind of segue into other things. But with Danielle being very tall and thin, her body type is for modeling, is for runway work, So I just hate the fact that Danielle was played like that, because we were really rooting for Danielle to win. We were waiting to see her on magazines, on Vogue, and it's just, it never happened. And then for Tyra to know that, if you know that this is what this girl is facing, then why didn't you take her under your wing and give her your own opportunities? Why not, get her to like Baby Fat, get her to some, urban runway shows. Why not get her other opportunities? If you know that these white folks are closing doors in her face, you should have took her under your wing, but you didn't want to. Why? Because you yourself had an issue with Danielle. Because see, sometimes people see things in you that you don't even see in yourself. And Danielle had a bright light about her. And I think that intimidated Tyra. That's why every little situation, Tyra went out her way to bring Danielle down a notch. And it really hurt me to watch it. Like, I cried. It really hurt me to watch, like, the stuff that Danielle went through. Now, while we're still talking about the black girls, let's go ahead and talk about Dion. The Dion situation pissed me off. I had no idea that was why Dion's mom was in a wheelchair. I vaguely remember Dion on the show, and I remember her mom being in a wheelchair, but I didn't know why she was in a wheelchair. But for Dion to come on and say that producers knew that her mother was dating a man, the man got upset that she was going to go marry somebody else because they had broke up, and the man shot her in hopes of killing the mother. And the mother survived, but now she's permanently disabled. For them to then do a photo shoot where you got these models being strangled and killed, but the one model whose mom was actually affected by gun violence, you had the nerve to make her the model who's literally dead with a gunshot to the head. Are y'all cool? Are y'all okay? I was disgusted when I found out the backstory about that. And good on Dion for not giving them what they wanted. They wanted to trigger her. They wanted her to have a breakdown and think about her mother. And Dion just was like, you know what? Let me just, put on my brave face and just go through with the shot. That was really sad that they took a lot of the things that these girls went through, a lot of their trauma, and they spun it for reality television. So now let's talk about Kenya. Now, Kenya, this, watching this now as an adult, it is kind of disturbing, and it kind of unlocked where I have a lot of my issues with weight, where that comes from. The skinny aesthetic, I can't have a gut. It really brought back to like, damn, is this where all this shit came from? Like being very self-conscious of my stomach and making sure it's flat and not, when you take pictures, suck it in. And wow, when I tell you, it really opened up a lot for me. Watching this, it really triggered me because there was nothing fat about Kenya at all. Even looking at her stomach, nothing fat about Kenya. Kenya has more of a straight up and down shape, right? She doesn't really have hips. She doesn't really have a big booty. Even Mr. J was like, oh, you're shaped like a boy. Some women are just shaped more up and down. And because she has a more up and down shape where she really doesn't have hips, she really doesn't have a big booty. This was back then. She's a little bit thicker now. She tend to gain a little bit more weight in her stomach first. For some people, that's where they gain their weight first. Everybody doesn't gain weight in their ass and hips. Okay? Some people gain weight in their tummy first. And so I think for her, you're dealing with nervousness. Cameras 24/7, and so if she eats something, she may get bloated, and that bloated goes to her stomach first. And that is okay. They were acting like she was sporting a beer belly gut, the way they were just talking about her and constantly picking her apart. you know, because her swimsuit didn't fit, you know, as well as some of the other stick thin, you know, girls on the show. And it was really sad to see how much they were just tearing her down. They made her gluttony. Then the next week they made her an elephant. And that was one of the worst shots on Top Model. One, the outfit was just not attractive. The elephant ears, it just looked thrown together. Whereas if you look at Naima's shots, you know, her makeup was on point. Like the way they made some of the other girls look, their shots were really beautiful. Kenya's just looked like it was thrown together. It was a slap in the face. And I didn't like how they did that, because my thing is, Tyra and the judges sat there and picked this girl's body apart for fodder. Somebody who's young, you know, 20, 21 years old, you're still coming into yourself. Hell, you're not even done growing. Let's keep that real. You're not even all the way developed. You don't really stop developing as a woman until you hit 25. You know, so it's like they're picking her apart. And I remember I found it very funny when all of those articles came out about Tyra, because by then I was on YouTube. So this was like 2010 when this happened. And they were calling her America's Next Top Waddle. And those swimsuit pictures came on and people were roasting Tyra. And the reason why Tyra was getting roasted by a lot of people is because on her show, she had a lot to say about Kenya. But look how emotional Tyra gets. This is a grown woman in her 40s at the time, getting emotional about strangers calling her America's Next Top Waddle. But then when you look back on how she treated Kenya, and was, you know, you need to take the bun off your burger. You know, you're eating too much in the house. Janice Dickinson picking her body apart. And then you see Tyra breaking down when she gets the same treatment. The irony is crazy. You can't make this shit up.
Seeing me looking like this and all that. And everyone seems to be pretty okay with that. But for some reason, people had a serious problem when I looked like that. All right, when I look like that. But luckily, I'm strong enough and I have a good support system. I mean, I love my mama. She has helped me to be a strong woman so I can overcome these kind of attacks. But if I had lower self-esteem, I would probably be starving myself right now. But that's exactly what is happening to other women all over this country. So I have something to say. To all of you that have something nasty to say about me or other women that are built like me, women that sometimes or all the time look like this, women whose names you know, women whose names you don't, women who've been picked on, women whose husbands put them down, women at work or girls in school, I have one thing to say to you. Kiss my fat ass.
The irony. Because the way she talked down to Kenya, the way they kept talking about Kenya's so-called gut, that to me was not a gut, the way they kept picking that child apart. What if Kenya didn't have a strong support system? What if she didn't have a mother who poured into her? Not everybody has that. I didn't have a parent that poured into me. So do y'all know how much damage you were causing to that girl with the comments that y'all were making? Especially, like she said, my whole life I've been told I was skinny. And then I get on this show and it's something totally different. Imagine like just the conflict going on in her brain as a young person. Because in the real world, she is skinny. But then on this show, y'all keep acting like she's a plus size model. But then to see Tyra upset and crying that folks are giving her the same treatment, the irony. Now, another thing that bothered me with the Kenya situation, and like I said, as a kid, you don't really get it. I remember when I watched it when I was younger and I didn't understand, why she was crying. She said Brutini was, touching her and, he was doing too much. He was making her very uncomfortable. And now watching it with adult eyes, because there are obviously some things that were not being filmed, right? And I've talked about this in the past where I've been in a situation where I'm getting ready to take a group photo and somebody's husband is literally grabbing my ass in the photo. And I'm sitting here like trying to smile through it while this motherfucker is rubbing my ass and his wife is on the other side of me. So we don't know what was captured We don't know. So we don't know what Kenya would have been going through that maybe the cameras didn't capture. But whatever that man was doing to her was something that really affected her, because I remember her breaking down crying, but not really understanding, like, you know, it seems like they're dancing. What is causing her to cry? But this man clearly did something, and she tried to stop the shoot, and they had an attitude with her for stopping the shoot. It's like they were comparing her to Naima, because remember, Naima was in it. Naima was having fun. She was grinding on the guys. She was having a good time.
Naima got a little carried away and went from ballerina into showgirl. Naima takes gorgeous photographs.
Her attitude today didn't support what we've seen in this picture.
Who is Naima? I don't know that I know yet.
She's like a Fabergé egg. She's so gorgeous and glittery on the outside, but inside is empty, and she may crack.
Naima showcased her stunning appearance and beautiful body in today's photo shoot, but her performance felt a bit over the top. She started off with graceful moves, resembling a ballerina, but quickly shifted into an overly dramatic showgirl persona. While her body looked fantastic, she lacked control, and her expressions became too exaggerated, making the overall result feel a bit unnatural.
So Naima's grinding on them. She's letting them touch her. She went from doing ballerina moves to like, well, damn, they're being aggressive. Let me go ahead and, you know, back that ass up and do me. But everybody's not built like that. You know, Naima probably knew how to play it off, or maybe she enjoyed it. Who knows? But we don't know what Kenya's background is. We don't know if that type of touch may have triggered something in her. Maybe she could have been, you know, God forbid, touched when she was younger. You know, we don't know her backstory. She could have been a virgin, never had a man touch her in any type of way, because she made a comment saying that they only had loincloth on. You know, whatever it was, it made her very uncomfortable. And for them to not have her back and kind of dismiss it, because I believe they were comparing her to how Naima handled it versus Kenya as an individual.
This male model, he was flirting with me. He was grinding on me. I felt like he really crossed the line.
If someone is harassing you, then it can manifest itself in the photos, but it doesn't show. This extremely professional.
I feel a lot of pressure added on to me because I can end up being eliminated for not doing so well in the shoot because of his actions.
Kenya immediately halted the shoot. She pointed out that the male model kept touching and teasing her while making audible panting sounds. She couldn't continue working, but the shoot demanded Kenya complete the final few shots, attributing it to her lack of control. Kenya could only keep responding to the boundary violations while fulfilling the shoot requirements. During the judging phase, the panel ruled Kenya failed to meet top-tier model standards. They argued that even when provoked, models should defuse situations with professionalism, using feminine charm to counter male models' advances, rather than halting poses and disrupting the shoot. They emphasized that elite models must maintain professionalism under any circumstances.
You guys just saw that. So I felt like the judge's response to her was very dismissive. It's like they really didn't care. They didn't want to be bothered. They weren't treating these girls with the individuality that they all deserved. You know, everybody's background is not the same. Everybody's trauma doesn't look the same. What may trigger you may not trigger me, and vice versa. So I'm really sad that Kenya went through that. And to see how upset she was, I definitely felt like that man did a lot more behind the scenes to her that we were not privy to. Because like I said, until you experience something like that, it's very easy to dismiss it. But people can put you in uncomfortable situations on purpose just to see how you're going to react. Now we got to talk about the elephant in the room. No pun intended, Kenya. But we got to talk about Shandy. This scene brought back a lot of memories. It was very triggering and it broke me. I broke down crying. I cried several times during this documentary. I didn't expect to. I was really crying for the models, you know, but this had me in tears. Because for so long, you know, everybody looked at Shandy as just simply a cheater. You know, I'm going to speak for myself, right? Because me and my ex-husband used to watch the show. So how it was framed for us growing up is that Shandy was the ugly duckling. She waddled on to America's, you know, next top model. She could barely walk. She looked goofy. She had these glasses, very, you know, gangly like olive oil. Then they end up hooking her up and they turn her into this beautiful swan. New hair, you know, they got rid of the damn glasses, gave her contacts, and her pictures were eaten. Every single shoot. she was doing a really good job. And now we're all looking at Shandy with a new set of eyes. So then it's like, okay, they done turned you from the ugly duckling into a swan. And the man who was with you when you was the ugly duckling, you just gonna cheat on him on national television for a male model? Are you serious? So that's how a lot of us took it. Like, after that, I was not a fan of Shandy. I thought it was wrong that she cheated on her boyfriend, you know. And then, you know, to hear Eric just breaking down crying, like, we were supposed to live together. You were supposed to be mine forever, you stupid bitch. Like, you could hear, like, the heartache. So a lot of men really hated Shandy. Because it was just like, you know, how dare you? Like, your boyfriend's the one who got you on the show, who encouraged you to, you know, to apply. You get on, and then this is how you repay him. Then we find out there's more to the damn story. And I'm like, objection. What the fuck is going on here? I thought Shandy was just having a good old, you know, funky time cheating on her man. Found some new peen in Paris. But we find out that wasn't really the case. They decided to invite the male models over because the girls were bored. They wanted to hang out with other models. They had been hanging out with them earlier in the day, getting, you know, shown around the city. And so at that point, they all start drinking. Shandy had 2 bottles of wine. This is somebody who's freshly 21. She hadn't eaten all day. So she was literally not all there. She was drunk as a skunk. Then they go from them making out in the hot tub. Then they're in the shower. And then we find out, you know, of course, her and this model sleep together. The way that Tyra talked about it did not sit well with my spirit. First, she tried to act like she didn't even know who Shandy was. When the producer says, okay, well, let's talk about the Shandy situation. How did that make you feel? Tyra was like, what situation? Like, she was trying to play crazy, like she didn't know who Shandy was or that situation. As drunk as Shandy was, now I see a lot of people saying that she was raped. We're not going to do that. I think there was definitely sexual assault. But let's not forget, he was just as drunk. They were all drinking, all the girls, all the male models, and he was just as young as Shandy. I mean, these weren't 40-year-olds. So you have 2 young people drunk out their mind. Neither one of them can consent. At that point, production should have stepped in. Neither one of them needed to have sex in that moment because they were both drunk and could not consent. Obviously, there were no condoms used because the next day they made Shandy call him and see if he had any STDs and all types of stuff. So what if this would have resulted in a pregnancy? Like, I mean, what the hell is, what is going on? Where are the adults in the room? What if this would have resulted in a pregnancy or HIV? Yeah, I get trying to document, but at some point in time, you have to put the contestants' safety in the forefront. She said she literally had sex for 5 minutes. She was in and out of consciousness. He obviously don't know what he's doing. The shit only lasted 5 minutes. It is very, very disturbing. And then what really broke me was when she came to the realization of what she'd done. And again, watching this as a young person, I'm mad at Shandy. Like, you really cheated on your boyfriend and he was such a good boyfriend. Like, how dare you? But now getting the context as an adult, that broke me to watch her break down like that. And kudos to the young women who did not judge her, who rallied around her, who hugged her and allowed Shandy to break down. That was heartbreaking hearing her cry like that. That cry came from the pits of despair. She knew she had crossed the line of no return. And she knew, like, she literally, in not so many words, sold her soul. That wasn't what she came there to do. And then she wanted to go home. They didn't want her to go home. Then they said, okay, well, fine. We'll let you call your boyfriend, but we have to record it. So imagine you've made the biggest mistake of your life so far in your 20s. And it's filmed for everyone to see. And now you have to call your boyfriend and let your boyfriend, who's held you down, who was there when you were an ugly duckling, quote unquote, who encouraged you to come on this show, now you have to tell him you cheated on him. And when he said, you had sex, that broke me. To hear her breaking down, crying and sobbing. And then you hear him crying and he's upset. And I remember VH1 did commentary on this. Remember, like, pop-up videos and, you know, I love the 2000s, I love the 90s. It was on one of those shows. And I remember a lot of people were clowning this young man, saying he sounds gay. Oh, I see, you know, why she cheated. These were grown adults making fun of a 21-year-old man who just got his heart broken on national television, who just found out that the love of his life cheated on him. And you still had grown adults making fun of Eric and Shandy. I don't know if y'all remember that episode, but it was on VH1. They were clowning Eric for how he responded, how he screamed like a, you know, girl. That's what they were saying. So they continue to exploit both these young people's trauma for TV ratings on VH1 and on the CW with Tyra Banks. That was heartbreaking to find out the backstory of that. And then when she said when they would walk down the street, because they try to work it out and get back together, and you know, she's in New York City, people in New York are bold. They're not going to bite their tongue. This was in the 2000s. You know, people are going to say what they got to say to your face. They come and straight up call her a slut and tell Eric you're stupid for taking her back. A man can only handle so much of that. So that helped to dissolve their relationship. But again, nobody knew that alcohol was involved. Nobody knew that production allowed it to get this far. And they said they filmed everything. So that means they filmed these two young people drunk out their mind having sex in the bedroom and in the shower. Disgusting. You had this young girl in a foreign country, isolated, overwhelmed, drunk, and making a poor decision because she's young. This is what young people do. At 21, your frontal cortex is not all the way developed. Her as a 40-year-old adult, she probably wouldn't have been in that situation. But as a 21-year-old, things happen. And the fact that no adults took any responsibility, Tyra was so dismissive. Well, I don't know. It was production. I didn't have anything to do with that. Ken Mock, so dismissive. Well, you know, it was back then. We were filming stuff to be a documentary, so we weren't allowed to intervene. So if Shandy was going to jump off of a building and off herself, would you not intervene? If she was going to do a line of cocaine and get high out her mind, would you not intervene? Like, at some point in time, your morality chip has to kick in. The Reality Check Netflix episode did not rectify the moment. They really didn't feel bad. They just softened it and downplayed the parts that, you know, that they were involved in. And then to find out that she was still exploited on the Tyra Banks show, where they showed that clip, was just insane. And then on top of that, the next day, Tyra comes to talk to them. And to be fair, they didn't edit it properly. They made it seem like Tyra just wanted to talk about cheating. But to be fair, because I remember that episode, if you remember, Shandy brought it up to Tyra. She wanted advice from somebody that she saw as a big sister. And to me, I felt like Tyra was low-key judging her. Even though she claimed that she wasn't, she was.
You like that? You guys want any advice for very technical? Like a physician. Right.
Have you ever cheated on anyone?
I've never cheated on a boyfriend.
Cheat on you?
I've never, oh God.
So you heard Shandy ask Tyra that. She's looking for big sister advice. Have you ever cheated on anyone? So Tyra didn't just bring that up. Shandy asked her. So I'm going to be fair when I do my commentary.
Yeah, I had one guy that cheated on me in Milano. He was a male model child. And that just hurt me so much. But now I always tell my man, like, don't cheat. Flirt so much with the girl and then come home and do me. Did that answer your question, Miss Shannon? Mm-hmm. You sound like you're tearing, look like you're tearing up. Yeah. You okay? Did your boyfriend cheat on you? You cheated on him? Really?
Objection. You are the executive producer of the show. You know exactly what went on. You know damn well that Shandy was in a situation where she didn't just cheat on her boyfriend, she was drunk out her mind.
Everybody's messed up, Shandy. I'm not judging you, but I think that we have to fight against our carnal desires, and sometimes they slip, but I don't see it as the end of the world. I understand that people do become attracted to other people, you know, in the moment. And it's all about your relationship and how open your relationship is and how honest you can be with one another. Did you tell him? You did tell him. Did he forgive you?
For about 10 minutes, it was just him crying and saying, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Then it goes to, I can't be with somebody that cheated on me. I hate you, stupid bitch. How could you do that?
That's just normal. No, he loves you.
You know that when Tyra's telling you something, that it's truly coming from like her heart.
You're just gonna have to face it, and then whatever happens, happens. And I'm just, you know, I've changed so much. I think you'll be okay though.
Look how Tyra's looking at her. She's judging her with her eyes. But you know, to try and dismiss it as just carnal, you know, lust and you know, being attracted to other people, it was deeper than that. I don't think Shandy was necessarily attracted to the guy at all. You know, but when you mix alcohol and hot tubs and situations, things are bound to happen with young people. So that was hard for me to watch. That broke my heart to find out what really happened to Shandy, and I'm really sorry that she went through that. You can tell, you know, after all these years, she's still going through it. She's still dealing with the guilt, the embarrassment. I didn't even recognize her. I did not. If she wouldn't have said she was Shandy, I would not have believed it. She looks nothing like she looked 20 years ago. And I mean, it's okay. I just didn't even recognize her. You can tell it's still weighing on her heart heavy. You know, Eric Poppy was the love of her life. And because of this show, you know, it destroyed that. So I just hope that Shandy ends up being okay, and I'm glad that she was able to tell her truth. Now, the final part I want to talk about is the judges and how they were treated. Now, the judges were not innocent in this. We're not going to put all the blame on Tyra, okay? Ken Mock, definitely guilty, okay? Guilty as charged. Mr. J, you was shady too, sir. Guilty. Nigel Barker, okay, we know you cute and all, but you did some shady stuff on the show. Guilty. Miss J, we love you. We love the runway walk, but you was kind of shady on the show too. Guilty. Okay? So they were all guilty of their own little sins, not just Tyra. But the way she just literally cleaned up house to me was disgusting. First of all, the show ran way too long. I checked out around season 11. At that point, I was a mother of two. I have other shit to do. I'm not in my model era anymore. It's time to, buckle down and be an adult, right? Once they wanted to end the show, Tyra should have left the show. And I think Tyra should have let the show end gracefully. Because as the other seasons were going on, it was just very desperate. At one point in time, Tyra came out acting like she was a mega Psy. Like she was always doing all these stunts just to keep people watching, and it just got to be too much. Who remembers this? She was just doing too much.
I can't.
We hear the snoring, and here comes Tyra rolling down stepping.
You said it.
In a fraternity.
My mom's Greek and my grandfather was the same one. So as she was stepping, I was like, get it, girl.
She made it fair.
That is how bad the show got. That she started stepping with the Sigmas, child, okay? The way they leaked that those men were fired, that was wrong. They deserve better than that. And they believe that Tyra's the one that leaked it. And especially being that Jay Manuel had wanted to leave after season 10 and he decided to stay another like 4 or 5 seasons and then for him to just get fired. And the thing that's crazy about these 3 men that Tyra had around them, they weren't just co-workers. These were men that she had known since she was a teenager. They believed in her dream. They helped her build the brand of America's Next Top Model. They dropped everything that they had going on in their own lives to come help Tyra build her brand, you know, make her dreams come to fruition, only for her to just, you know, kick them to the curb like they were nothing. People that she had known over 30 plus years. I just think it's really tacky how she treated the men who helped her, who were alongside her. But you know, and she's trying to play it off like, oh, it came from the top and it wasn't me. And, you know, this wasn't solely my decision. But other judges have kind of said the same thing about Tyra in the past as well.
Paula Porvikova and Janice Dickinson, when they left the show, were not very nice about you.
Let's not go there.
Well, I am going there. I am going to ask that question. Paulina Portikova says that you lack respect for the co-judges. Janice Dickinson said that you were righteous. I mean, why do you think both of them had such negative things to say about their experience?
I don't know. Why do you think?
Wasn't there.
She doesn't want to go there. Why do you think? I don't know.
Jealous? Is that what you're saying?
I'm asking you. You said it. I didn't say that word. You said it. What do you think? You said it. Is that what you think?
I'm asking.
You said it. I didn't say it.
She's not going to go there.
I think she just did.
No, you said it. I didn't say anything. You said it. Is that what you think? I interview people, Cynthia. So I'm saying you said that. Why did you say that?
Because I think every time women don't get along, it's the first thing people think. And sometimes it's true and sometimes it's not true. And I think that that's probably what a lot of people assume.
I cried myself to sleep that night. You know, they were there from the beginning. Best friend in the bed, coming up with photo shoots. Backstage at fashion shows, hanging, laying on them. Some of the closest people to me in my life. And me and Ken have to deliver that news that the deal is up, that it is over. You can imagine what that feels like. But bosses have bosses. And the big boss was very clear. There are no sacred cows. And I heard that meaning you too, Tyra. So pick up the phone and do what I'm telling you to do. And the thing is, I don't believe that they knew that it came from above. No matter how much Ken and I were explaining this was not our decision, to this day, I think they think that it was me and Ken.
So you just saw both of those clips. I'm not buying it. She was willing to cut them off, throw them under the bus to save herself. When the show was already dying, like I said, at that point when they wanted to get rid of the 3 judges that she's known since, you know, childhood, since she was a teenager, at that point she should have said, you know what? We're done with the show. If they're not going to be here, I'm not going to be here either. Another part that was really sad was Miss J, the same man who taught Tyra how to walk as a teenager, who taught many of girls. I don't care if it was in the real world physically or us watching on television. Mr. J taught a lot of us how to walk runways, okay? And so the fact that he had a stroke, which was just heartbreaking, and that he can't walk right now. And you can see how close Nigel and how close Mr. J are to Miss J, how they were by his side after that happened. They saw him a few years ago. I believe he had a stroke in 2021. It is now 2026, meaning it's been about 4 to 5 years since he had his stroke. Tyra has yet to see him. Only sent him a text message. Someone she's known since she was 16.
Jay Alexander. Miss J taught me how to walk.
I've known Tyra since she was 16. She had an idea. I met this next time out.
He's the first person I called. Oh my God. He was just his like godfather, mother, diva extraordinaire. He was the real deal.
came out of my mother's stomach wearing high heels. You have the most beautiful legs.
And Jay is a pioneer in himself.
The best factor you can get is watching black women going to church on Sunday.
Because back then, a lot of people were not expressing themselves like he was expressing himself.
Girl, I know I was.
I knew that he had something special.
I like the craziness. It's like the crazy. I taught Martha to walk. And now I can walk. Not yet. Not yet. I'm determined to walk. I'm sure you're going to see me again, I'm sure. It's not all for me yet.
Do you want to take a selfie? Since our last selfie was 2019.
Come on.
Well, we gotta do it. All right, we're gonna wipe the lens. Oof. Okay.
Did Tyra come and visit you?
Oh, yeah, yet. She just sent me a text. She wants to come and visit me. But, no. Not yet. The person who took
That look says everything I need to know. These 3 episodes barely scratched the surface. It was a very controlled, sanitized version of America's Next Top Model. And I wish that Tyra would have been more honest, would have taken more ownership, especially during the Tiffany situation. I felt like, there was a lot more said. Tiffany even came out and said that Tyra talked about her child, talked about her sleeping on the floor with her child. Like, Tyra ran in on Tiffany, so much so that they had to bring lawyers the next day. So for her to try and remix it and act like she did that because she cares about black girls was bullshit. That was once again Tyra trying to shift the responsibility of her actions and what she did. And another thing, I don't feel like this documentary was authentic. One, like I said in the beginning, it only has 3 episodes. But if we look at the whole picture, I'm going to say this. The money is not moneying. Let's not forget that Tyra Banks was recently sued in Washington, D.C. for breaking her 10-year lease. She's been sued for $2.8 million. I don't know if you guys know this, but let me go ahead and roll that clip.
DC landlord is suing supermodel Tyra Banks over a failed ice cream nonprofit deal.
Yeah, so the lawsuit claims Banks and her business partner backed out of a 10-year lease for an Eastern Market property. They moved that project to Australia. So Banks and her partner say they terminated the lease because of problems with the building, and they deny any wrongdoing. So the suit is seeking $10.8 million and is now playing out in federal court.
You guys just seen that. They're saying that the suit is 10.8, but I read it was 2.8 million. Either way, it's a lot of money that Tyra is being sued for, that she has to, pay lawyers and everything else. She's since gone to Australia, but I heard that her ice cream is not doing too good up there.
You might have heard of this thing that Tyra Banks has been doing, a new ice cream shop in Sydney with this new product that, frankly, she can't stop talking about.
Hot ice cream. Hot ice cream. Hot ice cream.
I just have one big question, and I'm not the only one. What is it? Tyra Banks has been very quick to say what it's not.
No, I'm not talking about a latte. I ain't talking about a latte.
It's not a latte. It's not a hot chocolate with flavors.
I feel like I'm going crazy because words have meanings, not just dictionary meanings, sometimes legal meanings as well, like ice cream. The food standards, Australia, New Zealand, 2.5.6. Ice cream means a sweet, frozen food that is made from cream or milk products, or both. There's also rules about how much milk fat and food solids needs to be in a product for it to be considered ice cream. But this isn't frozen. So can they call it ice cream? Getting to the bottom of that question, it sent me off on quite a journey. And in the end, it led to the shop abandoning the ice cream labelling entirely. I asked the New South Wales Food Authority, which is responsible for regulating those standards, and they sent someone to have a look. And they found the only place where it was labelled as ice cream was the in-store ordering application, and the regulator was working with the shop to remove that, saying this change will ensure that all labelling and ordering systems are compliant. While the agency has no powers to force Smize and Dream to change its website, which is hosted overseas, the company has. And so it's out with hot ice cream and in with hot Smize cream. This is not the most pressing food safety issue in this country, sure, but the code exists to give consumers consistency. So we know when we buy something, what we're going to get.
If someone with allergies can't see the true ingredients online and they see a label that has a common meaning, they may end up somehow, somewhere, going to that place, eating it and eating something dangerous. And I don't think that's theoretical. It's a real risk because sometimes people don't put a lot of thought into everything they put in their mouth.
Look, it's not like Tyra Banks is the first to ever come up with a novel food that stretches the meaning of words. Australian consumer law still applies, and that means companies can't be misleading or deceptive. If customers buying this are under the impression that what they're buying is, for legal purposes, ice cream, if that's the case, that's when Smize and Dream could have a problem.
But what's very interesting is that she recently did an interview in January with the interviewer, and she was saying that she doesn't want her legacy to be modeling, which I find very interesting. Let's go ahead and watch this clip as well.
Would you say were the key differences how you felt working on something like a talk show versus something like Smize and Dream, which I think is completely you?
So the talk show, it was me. It was my name. We did 5 years of it. I don't know if it was my passion. It was a gift. I know how to talk. You know how to talk. We both know how to talk,
Yes.
right? And know how to interview people. And actually a gift, but I did have a trainer. I had somebody that coached me how to be an even better talk show host.
Sure.
But that wasn't necessarily like, I wasn't thinking about it every single moment and every single day and every single moment of my life. This is my passion. And 20 years from now, like your kids, or whoever it is, walk into the ice cream shop and you're like, you know, this is from a woman named Tyra and she was a supermodel and entrepreneur. And they're like, I don't know what that is. I don't care. She's the ice cream lady and I just want some ice cream.
Yes.
Like, that legacy would be fantastic to me.
I love that.
Like my modeling career, I'm very proud of it. And I know I broke down a lot of doors for women of color and, you know, just in curves and all that. And I know that. And to me, that's in a museum. It's like, tick the box, museum. Yeah, look at all the things that I did, you know, that I did, but also somebody had to open the door for me to do it. It's not like I was just, you know, banging a hammer and something happened. Somebody had to make it happen. And I'm grateful to those people and to the country of France for opening that door for me. But the legacy, the real legacy, I want it to be ice cream. I really do. And I feel like there's a difference between having to get up to tap dance to make your money.
Yeah.
And I want to create a legacy that even when I'm gone, it means something, whether my family wants to continue that or not. And that's what I'm interested in building something that is bigger than me, that I become a myth, and that really that this is something that is continuing to give people joy. Whereas with the modeling, it's like it's all about you or your pictures and, oh, look at my runway walk and all of that.
Yeah.
And yes, my modeling was bigger than me, you know, and breaking down doors and things, but that to me has a ticking time clock. It's over.
Sure.
And you, like an athlete,
Sure.
it's over.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm out of retirement, but whatever. It's just like I do a cover once a month or something. But the ice cream, I want that to live forever.
You want that to be your immortality.
Yes, totally.
Beautiful.
So y'all just saw that interview. So let's pause for a moment, okay? Does this make any sense to y'all whatsoever? You mean to tell me a woman who built her life, her brand as being a top model, a black model who broke down doors, who had a successful running show for over 20 plus years, you want your legacy to be ice cream? So to me, that's very disingenuous. To me, it sounds like she's running away from the American Next Top Model brand because it doesn't suit her anymore. Because a lot of people went back and watched it with, you know, more modern eyes, and they've caught her out on her shit for the past 4 or 5 years, and it's upsetting to her. So now she's trying to reinvent herself and talk about ice cream. So what I find very interesting about her saying this, because that interview took place in January. It's now February, and now she's teasing that there's going to be a Cycle 25 of America's Next Top Model. Who's asking for this?
You have no idea what we have planned for Cycle 25.
You haven't even resolved the issues from cycles 1 through 24, and now you want to bring on a cycle 25. That's how you know the money's not money. And once again, to me, in my personal opinion, this documentary was not done with sincerity. She didn't do this for closure for these women. She once again used these women to drum up nostalgia of America's Next Top Model, get money from Netflix, have everybody tune in and talk about it in hopes of helping her with this lawsuit and also bringing eyes on her ice cream business. She's not doing this, and she didn't do this documentary to be sincere and really close a chapter. How can you move on to season 25? You have a lot of unhealed women. You can't say that your modeling era is behind you and, you moved on to your new life of, being an ice cream person when you're reopening the same chapter, which is America's Next Top Model, to generate buzz. So again, like I said, I enjoyed the documentary for the most part, mainly the parts about the models, and I like what the judges had to say. But overall, I just don't feel like she did this with sincere intentions. She did this as a money grab because, again, the money's not moneying, and everybody right now is trying to figure out how to continue to maintain their lifestyle. She used these girls to once again pump up her brand and drum up nostalgia. So with that being said, Tea Sippers, I look forward to reading y'all's comments down below. Let me know your thoughts. Did you watch the documentary? Did you like it? What was your favorite part? This edit on YouTube will be different just because there's a lot of clips in here. If you want to watch the full thing unredacted with the full clips and everything, go to my Spotify account and you'll see it there. I'll post a link down below. We will also be doing a call-in show probably tomorrow. I want to give everybody a chance to fully watch the documentary. If you want to be a part of the call-in show, make sure you tune in, call in, and I want to hear from you guys. Let's go ahead and get the discussion popping. Please leave a comment down below. Make sure you guys like the video. Feel free to share the video, and I'll talk to y'all later. Deuces.
If you want the latest news in the streets, join us and tune in for the tea. Breaking news with integrity. So tell your friends and your family. It's the Lovelyti TV show, bringing you good tea and good vibes. It's the Lovelyti TV show. Be sure to share, like, and subscribe.